Hey guys, thanks for joining Learn to Play. We're at Gen Con 2016. This is day 3, and I'm here with Kingdom Death's Adam Poots, and we're going to talk about some of the future of Kingdom Death and see where things are going to go. So thank you for joining me today, Adam.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. I'm a big fan of your game.
Thank you.
Love the Kickstarter, and now that we've gotten all the content, it's absolutely amazing. You guys really did knock it out of the park. It was. I know there was a lot of people that were concerned about how you guys were going to deliver and if it was going to be any good or if it was just going to be a great miniatures game. Yeah. And you guys really did. The story, everything is just absolutely fantastic. So from this point, where are you guys going with this?
First and foremost, we got to get that reprint out there.
Okay.
That is my absolute goal. I want to have it before the end of the year.
Okay.
But I don't want to repeat any of my sins from the past.
Sure.
And I'm making sure that everything is lined up with the manufacturers before I go ahead and say anything like super official.
Okay.
The reprint is definitely being worked on.
Okay. So is this something you guys are going to kickstart, or is it something that you guys are doing independently, or are you getting a distributor?
Kickstarter seems like the most likely scenario. I kind of don't want to, but because I'm worried we may not be able to control fan excitement. It's like the first Kickstarter was amazing and it blew my mind. I'm still reeling from it. It's all been a very surreal experience.
Yeah.
And if we get back on it, I don't know how to match that enthusiasm. I definitely cannot kickstart another 12 expansions and another game the size of Monster. No way.
Yeah.
So, maybe it'll be a smaller, more focused campaign. We're sort of like picking and choosing what's realistic for us so that we can actually get things out with the partners we have instead of like being stuck in a giant holding pattern for a long time. Although the advantage to that was, and the gamble was, that instead of developing anything new, we just worked on the game.
I was going to say, you guys really went all out for the expansions
Every
and
time
everything.
I was upset with one of the factories, I spent more money on artwork.
Yeah, it was absolutely phenomenal.
It is worth it, but that's risky on the business side of things.
Absolutely. So, in the Kickstarter, if you guys end up doing another Kickstarter, is there going to be stuff that you guys are going to have for those of us that have already backed to get us back involved with possibly new content or even just new stuff to add to the game?
So, I didn't realize I was a very anal or meticulous person, I guess, until everyone kept telling me I was in the process of making the game. And, we have an opportunity to do a reprint, and I can't resist but to go back in, fix some of the things, or just clear technical errors that we had, which weren't many. We polished the crap out of it. And then a little bit of rebalancing. Survival of the Fittest, which I think personally was fine, just doesn't get played by the community. I think it's like 70% of the games choose Protect the Young, and for such an important binary decision, we got to do more to it. So Survival of the Fittest is getting adjusted. Saviors are being adjusted. Currently, a lot of the community is kind of like saving them up like Magnum rounds, like you would in Resident Evil.
Okay.
And that wasn't ever really their intent.
Okay.
So I know I got on Twitter and said a nerf was coming. It's a little bit different than that. They're getting more content, and then they're going to play it a bit differently. They're still going to be powerful. They're still going to get them the same way, but I don't want them to be in the campaign and then take away from the primary way you play the game, which is to focus on your settlements, make sure that you're getting gear that your legacy of survivors can use. It puts too much of a spotlight in one place, and some campaigns just kind of like glass cannon their way through with them, and that wasn't the design intent.
Gotcha.
So a new version of the rulebook plus any of the cards that we end up adjusting will be available as a pack.
Okay.
For all of the existing fans.
Very nice.
It'd be ridiculous. I'm not gonna make you buy the game yet.
Gotcha.
That's insane.
Is there a chance that we'll see possibly like a hardbound copy of the rulebook that we could purchase as an option?
That might be one of our stretch goals.
Okay.
Depending on how well the campaign goes. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yeah. I'd love to get it in hardbound. Maybe with like a bookmark in there.
That would be great. Yeah, that would be really nice. Is there any talk about doing like neoprene mats for your game board or any type of thing like that to make the game a little bit more transportable?
Not currently.
Okay.
It might be something that a lot of gamers will find handy, ones that are playing with a lot of play groups. So I don't have any contacts or people who do that. But again, like back on the anal and meticulous side, I find that those mats generally do not look as good as a game board does.
Yeah.
So unless I found a factory or partner that could do that, I probably wouldn't do it.
Okay.
That faded mouse pad look is just not.
Yeah.
It's not like up to snuff with the rest of things.
I gotcha. Okay. So with the older stuff that you guys have done in the past with just the minis, are you guys looking at adding some of that stuff into Kingdom Death at some point?
So our old like resin collection.
Yeah, it's like Nurse Mom and those kind of things where you didn't want to put them into the campaign initially because you were concerned about some of the regulations that Kickstarter has. Are those type of models going to translate into Kingdom Death at some point and in some fashion?
I love the Wet Nurse. Totally want to get that in the game. We're still working on it, and then there's things that, like the Nightmare Ram at this point is done and play tested, but missing art assets.
Okay.
So like kind of comes first. The Wet Nurse is also from the Holy Lands, and that whole area and all the monsters in it are going to be sort of used for what the community calls heroes.
Okay.
We play with these guys. What we're calling it internally is Labyrinth.
Okay.
And that whole range of monsters will be in there, including the Wet Nurse.
Awesome. That's really exciting.
The miniatures and the artwork is all kind of developed separately at first, and then we kind of like start to look at imagining what the experience for players and people in the world would be with these monsters, and that's when we start to like roll out game rules. And the whole world was designed without restriction, without care, consideration, just purity of vision being the only thing that was important. And the artists that I've been working with over the years, I've shared this thought and this sort of like way of working with them, and they're open to it. They don't want to pull back. They don't want us to sort of like be conventional or to play it safe or to get to a point where we're an all ages affair, and that's fine. If we can figure out kind of like a way to be the HBO of the gaming world, that's where we're going to go. It attracts people.
Yeah,
who want to be
definitely
involved in that. But it's a bit of a difficult balance because it's so different.
It is very different. That was my next question: is where did you come up with the idea to some of this stuff? I mean, some of these things, would give me nightmares, and I can't imagine having this kind of stuff in my head on a regular basis. I mean, it's some of these guys like the spider, they're terrifying, and just the concepts behind them.
I've always been creeped out by Daddy Longlegs. So I was like, I got to make a Daddy Longlegs monster.
Okay.
And then I started to do research about Daddy Longlegs and how they worked in nature, and they're real bastards. So they will crawl into other spider nests and spread themselves out real thin, and spiders have a hard time seeing them. And then they'll vibrate the web slightly and make the spider think it's caught prey. And it goes up to it, and then it eats them.
Okay.
And I start to think about, well, if the relationship between our spider monster and humans is what we're focusing on, how does that work? I guess the spider can kind of vibrate at a high frequency and make itself invisible,
Okay.
And then we added the stalk lore.
Yeah.
Just trick survivors.
Now, did you kind of come up with that on your own, or did you pull that from like Japanese lore? Like, I don't know if you watch anime, but as a Bleach fan, there was actually a hollow that had that exact type of thing with the lady that kind of got people to attract. So
I watched the first season of Bleach, the first arc.
Okay.
And then it went into the weird vampire thing. I was like, all right, I can't do this.
Okay, so it was all just independent.
Yeah.
Okay.
So mostly researching nature. Like nature's messed up.
Yeah, definitely.
It's just like, really? What? And then you start to, piece that into the world and the few like actual hard world building rules we have, which there aren't many.
Okay.
And it sort of like comes together like, and before the Kickstarter, like, in the years when this was just all thoughts, a lot of time daydreaming, a lot of time imagining. I really miss those days.
Yeah. Do you ever feel like you kind of pulled influence from some of the other big artists out there, like H.D. Giger or those types? Because your content does have that kind of...
the artist who illustrates Berserk, whose name I can't pronounce properly enough. Absolutely.
Definitely. Okay.
Just like some of the monster designs people come out with are outrageous. Giger mostly for his obsession with symmetry.
Yeah.
Because he was an architect. And symmetry is creepy. Like fundamentally uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So are like all the like really, really amazing religious artwork and stuff. Also something I've always found creepy since I was a kid. Like there's just something so structured and powerful about it.
Absolutely.
who's used to inspire people to see more and to believe in deities and stuff. Like, that's nuts.
Yeah. And I love the amount of detail that you can get into your models. I mean, just looking at the Phoenix, it's every time you look at it, you find new little things that are kind of hidden in there, and then you look at it, you're like, whoa, that's really kind of creepy and unusual. So going forward in the future, what other have you any other thoughts or ideas about possibly some new monsters that we might be seeing?
Monsters definitely take the most time.
Okay.
It's a very personal thing for me. I spent a lot of time first sort of like thinking about what fundamentally makes me feel uncomfortable, and then I'll begin researching animals and insects and creatures that relate to that.
Okay.
There's a monster that I think I teased on one of the Kickstarter updates called the honeycomb weaver.
Yeah.
Currently being worked on.
I remember seeing some stuff on that.
An exploration about bees and Kingdom Death. Trying to think of any other monsters that are currently like at that point. We have sort of our take on a Minotaur. It's still being worked on at this point.
Awesome.
The artist who did that is one of my favorites that I work with, a gentleman named Danny Cruz.
Okay.
He did the Forge God and the Wet Nurse. He's a very talented guy. It's very hard for us to work together because fundamentally we see things very differently.
Okay.
But like when we do manage, I'm always like thrilled with the results.
Awesome.
I find like a lot of like American horror is always like kind of gnarled and uneven, like half a zombie face, half not, like the stuff in Spawn or like cloaks or animated stuff, and all that stuff is not really what I find to be horror. So it's hard to find artists that understand my definition of it.
Yeah.
It just takes time. And the monsters are, I mean, in my opinion, the best part of the whole thing.
Oh, absolutely.
They are the characters.
Yeah.
They're what carry it.
Absolutely.
The expansion is about the monster.
Yeah.
And then you're just the little pitiful insects that have to deal with it.
And you will die many, many times.
Yep.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciated getting some insight into your world, and I can't wait to see what you guys come up with in the future. You'll have my support 100%, and for those of you guys watching, stay tuned. I'm also going to be looking at doing a full Learn to Play video for Kingdom Death, covering all 3 phases. It will take me a little bit of time, so bear with me, but we will be seeing that. So for those of you that have not played yet, you get to look forward to that and all the great stuff that Adam has in store for us. So thank you, and we'll catch you guys next time.
Thank you guys. Thank you everyone on the team. Thank you my partner and my beautiful son at home.
Thanks so much, man.